NaNeInf in Balatro is when you score so high, the game could no longer compute the number. To achieve this, you need to score higher than 1.8 times 10 to the power of 308, which is this number followed by 308 zeros. To put that in perspective, there's only 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the universe, which when compared to a percentage to NaNeInf is basically zero. And in today's video, I'm going to show you 7 ways to get NaNeInf in Balatro, with each one getting crazier as we go along. And the last one is one that's never been seen before in the history of Balatro. Our first method involves Perkio, Mime, and Baron. Baron gives a 1.5x mult for every king held in your hand, and Mime re-triggers every card in your hand. And if we want to get NaNeInf, we need around 1,751 triggers of 1.5x mult. The way to achieve this is by getting as many Baron and Mime triggers while also increasing the number of steel red seal kings in our hand. To get more triggers off Baron and Mime, you can either use Showman and try to pick up more of the same jokers, or you could use blueprints and brainstorms to copy them. You're probably going to need a mixture of both here though. To get a larger hand size, we can duplicate cryptid cards with Perkio, and once we get a set amount, we can use them all in one round to feast on a NaNeInf score. But getting a cryptid in your consumable slot is hard if you're not playing on Ghost deck, so you're going to need to use Sixth Sense or Seance and get lucky enough to have a cryptid spawn from them. The total amount of steel red seal kings we need in our hand depends on how many triggers you have for Baron and Mime. The bare minimum you need, assuming your high card is at level 1 on any deck other than Plasma, is 88 steel red seal kings, assuming you have 3 triggers on Mime and 3 triggers on Baron. That's a total of 40 cryptid cards with the standard 8 size hand to start. You'd only need 74 steel red seal kings in your hand if you have 4 triggers on Mime instead of 3, which is only 33 cryptids. On Plasma deck, the scoring is calculated a bit differently, but this actually makes it easier for us. We'd only need 44 steel red seal kings in our hand with the same jokers on the Plasma deck. If you can't find a way to get multiple triggers of Baron and Mime, then you're going to need to farm a lot more cryptid cards to make up for it. Or you can dip into the second method of today's video, which involves more or less the same jokers but with a bit different strategy. The Observatory voucher comes after you buy the Telescope voucher, and it gives you 1.5x mult for every planet card held in your consumable slot for that hand. Now without Perkio, we could only get up to 2 triggers of 1.5x mult for a hand, but with Perkio duplicating a planet card, we can start scaling the amount of 1.5x mult triggers. If we were to solely use planet cards for a NaNeInf, we need around 876 planet cards in our consumable slot, which is pretty much impossible to achieve in a regular run. I think it works out to around 8 to 9 planet cards every single round that you need to spawn in from the very beginning. So you're going to have to supplement the rest of the score through a Baron Mime build. The amount of planet cards you need to duplicate is going to vary based on the amount of triggers you have on Baron and Mime and the amount of cryptids you have. So feel free to screenshot this to refer to it for when you're trying to figure out the exact amount of numbers you need. Now what if we didn't want to use Baron or Mime to achieve our NaNeInf? Well, we can use Perkio in another way to achieve a really cool NaNeInf, and you can get really creative with this. We're going to need an Ankh spectral card in our consumable slot to start. An Ankh spectral card duplicates a single joker and deletes the rest. But if you're playing on black stake, then you can get eternal jokers which can't be deleted. So if we use Perkio to duplicate an Ankh, then we can keep duplicating an eternal joker as many times as we want. The only issue is now we are limited to 5 joker slots. And even if you duplicate an eternal negative joker, the duplicated joker doesn't have the negative enhancement anymore. The solution to this is using an ectoplasm, which turns a joker into a negative at the cost of some of your hand size. So the more Ankhs and ectoplasms you can create with Perkio, the more you can duplicate an eternal joker. The only downside to this is that you will instantly lose the game the next round because you will have a 0 hand size from the ectoplasms, which is an automatic loss in Balatro. But before that happens, you can get a NaNeInf with a multitude of different jokers. A YouTuber by the name of Rossmeister10 got a NaNeInf using the strategy with the photo chat build and brainstorms. He was able to stack up 57 jokers and break the game just from the power of 2 common jokers. Dr. Spectre achieved a NaNeInf by duplicating stencil joker 87 times, with each stencil giving 87x mult. That's absolutely crazy. And I'm sure you can figure out some other ways to get NaNeInf if you get creative enough and do the math. But I'm gonna leave that up to you guys to figure out. But let's say you want to flex on your homies and you want to get a NaNeInf without a legendary joker like Perkio. I mean, it's pretty hard to come across one in an unseeded run. So if you want to get one without a legendary joker, then we're going to have to go back to the Baron Mime build, but tweak it just a little bit to take advantage of one of the 23 regular boss blinds. You're still going to need multiple triggers on Baron and Mime here from blueprints and brainstorms, but instead of using Perkio to increase your hand size, you can use a Burglar joker, which gives you +3 hands for the round at the cost of your discards. And this joker can be copied with blueprint and brainstorm, and you can reach upwards of 15 hands in one round with this strategy. Where this comes into play is during the serpent boss blind, where after every hand or discard played, 3 cards are drawn. So if you have 15 to 20 hands to play with, you can pretty much draw your whole deck in one round, allowing you to increase your hand size to what it needs to be for a NaNeInf. It really helps if you have the retcon voucher, which allows you to infinitely reroll the boss blind. So whenever you have enough steel red seal kings in your deck, you can reroll the boss blind into the serpent and get your NaNeInf that way. Keep in mind though, the boss blind doesn't show up for antes 8, 16, 24, and 32. Because every 8th boss blind is a special 1 of 5 that can be selected. Also, once you get the serpent boss blind, you're going to need to re-roll through literally every single other boss blind until it comes back around. Because the way that works is that it cycles through every boss blind until you do a full loop and it comes back and goes in that order again. For our next NaNeInf method, we're still using Baron and Mime, but in order to increase our hand size, we're going to take advantage of a bug with the legendary Chicot joker. Now Chicot's ability says that it disables the boss blind, but in actuality, it doesn't disable it, it just reverses the effect. Meaning if you have 2 Chicots and you're playing on the manacle boss blind, instead of getting -1 hand size, you'll actually get a +1 hand size, and this is permanent throughout the rest of the run. The more Chicots you have, the more further it'll be reversed. So if you had 3 Chicots, you could actually get +2 hand size every time you get the manacle. With the retcon voucher, you can force every boss blind to be the manacle and slowly increase your hand size that way until it's big enough to get a NaNeInf with Baron in mind. This method is a lot more impractical because it's hard enough getting a legendary joker, but duplicating it while still scoring high enough to get enough money with 3 available joker slots is very difficult. Not to mention, getting lucky with the retcon voucher and having enough economy to keep cycling through every boss blind for the manacle. This is gonna add up to thousands of dollars after only a few antes. So it is a little unpractical, but it's not impossible and it has been done before. For our next method, it's more or less the same, but we're just using a different bug to increase our hand size. I think you'll notice that all of these strategies revolve around Baron and Mime because it's the most consistently high scoring duo. And the only thing we're changing each time is how we're increasing our hand size. And for this one, we're going to utilize the Turtle Bean Joker and the Crimson Heart Boss Blind. Now the Turtle Bean Joker increases your hand size by 5 and it decreases by 1 every round until it runs out. But there's a bug that happens during the Crimson Heart Boss Blind when it disables a random Joker. When you come across this boss blind and it disables Bean, your hand size in-game number should revert back to what it originally was before you had the Bean. And it's going to be showing that you have more cards in your hand that you can hold. In this situation, you can exit out to the main menu and come back into the game. When you come back in, your hand size will show as if Bean was never disabled. And congratulations, you have now increased your hand size permanently, and you can keep rinsing and repeating this every time Bean is disabled. If you use this enough times, you can grow your hand size to a point where you can achieve NaNeInf with the Baron in mind. And also, you're just going to have a huge hand size for the rest of your game. And who doesn't love having extra hand size? I mean, I'm a hand size kind of guy when it comes to this game. I always try to get more hand size. That's just me. I love that. And finally, for our last NaNeInf method. This one has never been done before and it's brand new. And it's just very plain and simple. I like to call it the high card method. You don't need any jokers or you don't need to exploit any bugs like anything I mentioned in this video. This one is just plain and simple. So what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna need to level up high card about 4.24 quinquatillion times for it to give you a NaNeInf off of just one card. So good luck with that. Okay, that's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.